I'd like to invite Dr. Jit Sarkar. He is a physician scientist with a keen interest in data analytics and precision medicine. He's passionate about finding meaning out of biomedical data and leveraging them for better clinical outcomes. And his current work generally involves offering meaningful and translational guidance to biological and healthcare organizations. Currently working as a senior bioinformatics scientist, I'm sure we will be able to learn a lot about the field and the opportunities that the field has to offer. And with that, now I'd like to pass on the stage to Dr. Jit Sarkar to start with today's expert talk. So over to you, sir.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak at this webinar. So I know it's a very introductory webinar. I will talk mainly just give a very basic introduction of health informatics. So as already mentioned, I come from a very sort of a maybe a different background. So I have done very basic clinical degree, MBBS, almost 7 years back. My interest was always on data and data analytics. So after MBBS, I slowly shifted towards doing my PhD in bioinformatics and data science. So currently I work as a senior scientist and I handle multi-omics data, which ranges from transcriptomics, proteomics, metabolomics. And I also work with EMR data, health record data, and building predictive models out of those data, and also to provide solutions, customer solutions as per their need. So this course is going to cover more or less I will limit myself to the genre of health informatics. So it's more of a healthcare data science. So I won't speak at length on transcriptomics or other multi-omics, biotech related omics things. And today is the introduction. So just let me start it. So I have just prepared a few slides for today's talk. I have briefly divided them into 3 sections: experiences, my experiences, data science in healthcare, where it stands today, and some of the challenges and opportunities which are still now and which will be coming more in the coming nearby future. So starting with this has been my journey. So if you see, it's more of a transition from healthcare delivery to healthcare research. So as I have told, I have done my graduation from in MBBS, and then afterwards I did my clinical residency. It's more of a physician kind of role where I used to treat patients and attend to patients like that. And then I slowly shifted to clinical research. The research question was majorly clinical practice driven, and I had my major focus on type 2 diabetes almost 6 years back. Now from clinical research, I slowly shifted towards bioinformatics and then health informatics. So why am I giving this particular slide? And so the idea is to tell any learner from any age, in any stage of his or her career or education, that you always have the option to switch and shift from domain to other domain. And today, given the amount of resources you can access to, open source resources like Pine Biotech, so it's very easy, given you have the motivation and the right choice of your goal, you can also do such short of switches. So again, my graduation, my clinical residency and clinical research, this was majorly for academia. So I had spent almost 6 years, you can tell, in academia. Research, I spent the coming 5 years. There would be overlap between academia and research. And only for the last 2 years, I have been into the industry. Now, again, why do I mention this also? Because nowadays things are surfacing out that there is a big gap in academia and research and industry. And maybe there are certain skill sets which academia doesn't empower with us, which we need for the industry. But still, there is plenty much opportunity to upskill yourself, to learn new things. And this might not be a very abrupt journey for some, might be very abrupt for some, and there's always scope to transform yourself from academia to research to industry. So there are options. So I would just tell everybody to explore more and more, and things are not that much of difficult and critical as it might look. You just need to be consistent and things will surely work out. So again, the next thing is, what did I learn from academia? So is it nothing that academia didn't teach me, or there are something? So yes, there are some things. So in academia is actually the place where you go to know the basics of biology. So in my case, biology. So the basic thing. So what is a cell? What is a tissue? What is an organism? What is a gene? What is a protein? What is transcription, translation? What is transcription regulation? So these very basic things, this nobody is going to teach you. Nobody is going to spend the effort to teach you. These basic building blocks is what academia can only teach you. So from my perspective, I got into the basics of biology, basic of medicine, then health and disease. What is a disease? How do we define disease? And for my particular specific background, clinical approach to medicine and public health approach to medicine. So this is more of a professional degree. So where I just learned what to do and what not to do. I had a very limited scope of innovation or innovating or learning new things, or telling or discovering new things. Something which I could achieve in my research during my PhD. So from this academic background, I tried to zoom in one or two questions, one or two pertinent problems, and I was taught the art of quantifying things in my research. So now I learned. So majorly, I focused on quantitative methods. So how do we quantify medicine? How do we quantify a problem? How do we quantify, suppose, RNA expression in normal cell versus RNA expression in a disease tissue? So this art of quantification that involves pre-processing, processing, and downstream analysis. So this quantitative approach to medicine is what research taught me. Now that was also something incomplete until I came to industry, where I could bridge the gap between academia and research and make it into a product that will be serving purpose of multiple people. So this journey from academia to research and industry, this has been quite a I would tell diverse journey, quite a exciting journey, and there are things which you get to learn only in that duration of your life, in that duration of your career, and you should try to make the most from wherever and whenever you are right now. So now coming to the next big section is data science in healthcare and biotech. So where we are right now. So this is a survey market analysis done by McKinsey and Company, and they had tried to identify the amount of venture capital which has been invested in AI companies who work in healthcare over the last maybe 5 to 7 years. So, and you see there are three large US, Europe, and Asia, and this is the number. This is the venture capital amount invested, and you can see the growth. The growth is actually tremendous. So between these 4 years, that has been a growth of 5x, 22x for Europe, and 28x for Asia. So the growth is going to be massive in healthcare domain. Healthcare data is a big source of data. It requires tremendous amount of data storage and data computing facility. And with the modern day computers, all the GPU chips and all those things, cloud computing, the healthcare data handling capacity has increased, but what we are lacking is a proper human resource who will be well equipped to handle this healthcare data, and that's something which is still pending, and that will come in the coming maybe 1 decade. And these would be the major things of healthcare AI solutions. We can do chronic care management. So in any chronic care, it's diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, or atherosclerosis. In any chronic care management, data and data-driven decision is what is going to be the future of healthcare. Self-care, prevention, wellness. So self-care as we entered in, as the demographic shift occurs, so we will be having much more geriatric population in the coming 1 or 2 decades. And so geriatric population who will be requiring more prevention, more self-care, more home-based healthcare. So that's a very important area for healthcare AI. Triage and diagnosis. Again, uh, as the disease burden increases, we have to stratify patients into high risk, moderate risk, low risk, and we have to design the healthcare in such a fashion that high risk patients get more attention compared to low risk or moderate risk. So this triage and diagnosis is also something very hot right now. Diagnostic, so COVID, the entire COVID era and all these things have shown us that diagnostic, these RT-PCR kits, these are a very such a domain of AI where healthcare is going to succeed. Clinical support. So as doctor and patient ratio becomes more and more disparate, as the patient burden increases over a particular physician, clinical decision support tools will surely come into place. And care delivery is also something where point of care, home-based care, these are in very primitive stage right now, but that is also where something where AI is going to put some marks. So this is the broad spaces where healthcare is going to transform. And if I just tell you from the company name, so this can be the, I guess, top 50 companies with the headquarters and total amount of million raised. So you can see that almost it's $8490 million, which is the top 50 funding reported, and the top 10 has around 58% of this entire funding which has been raised. So it's a big investment from the venture VC funding, and opportunities and solutions will be massively increasing. So we also need to prepare ourselves with the right kind of knowledge and expertise. So now, how data science can transform healthcare? So just going to a bit of more granularity right now. So the first thing is patient care. So healthcare, the central character in healthcare is a patient. So data science would be successful if it can transform healthcare by giving better and quality patient care. So what can be the key areas of delivering good patient care? So there can be multiple of things in this particular area. So managing appointments and clinical visits. So there's something called waiting time, and this is a very important marker of a truly skilled hospital facility, where the waiting time is minimal, or the less the waiting time, the better is the facility, and the better the delivery service, the better the footfall. So managing appointments and clinical visit. Precise diagnostics. So there is something called precision medicine, which is coming up in the last 5 to 6 years. And now people are telling that no one disease is actually one disease. It's a cluster of multiple diseases. So arriving at precise diagnostic using transcriptomics data, proteomic biomarkers, arriving at precise diagnostic will help in delivering precise treatment and better recovery. Early disease prevention. prevention is going to be the next big thing. So right now we were focusing mostly on cure. So disease occurs, we have to cure it. But even at a prevention stage, things are now coming up that people are talking about prevention. That if you can have some biomarkers, which biomarker will tell you that this person is going to have a high risk of type 2 diabetes in 10 years, then you will be following a lifestyle modification at a much earlier stage. So right now, what happens? Somebody is diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and the physician tells the person to modify the lifestyle, do some diet restriction, and exercise. But reports and studies have reported that this may not be that much of helpful because the pathology and the damage has already been done. So people are telling that the damage occurs at least 1 decade before the disease actually manifests or shows up. So prevention is important. So we can prevent it at a much earlier stage, and maybe this lifestyle modification may be implemented 1 decade back. That will, of course, increase the efficiency and reduce the mortality, morbidity. There are certain metrics to calculate a good lifestyle and all those things. So prevention is a very important thing which is coming up. Patient triage. So as I told, that stratification, classifying patients into high risk, low risk, moderate risk, and thereby providing them care is what is called patient triage. And imaging and diagnostics. So as you know, much of the imaging right now, suppose say CT scan, USG, MRI, they already have some computationally calculating thing which already diagnose. So ECG already comes with some automated diagnostics, automated reports. Now, medical imaging is a big booming field. And in the era of COVID, the thing was that to know that this patient is suffering from COVID, RT-PCR was taking, suppose, close to 2 to 3 days. So for 3 days was a very critical time for a particular patient. In that case, in that scenario, people were talking about image-based diagnostics, where based on an X-ray image, if you can identify whether it's a COVID case or a non-COVID pneumonia, and to do that, we need lots of deep learning algorithms and deep learning algorithms with lots of image data with a proper compute facility. So this is also something which also is coming up. The next big thing is business and management. So this has nothing to do with the patient care, but again has much to do with the patient care also. So what are the big things, if I can just tell in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? So first is process automation. So suppose robotics and these things will also fall into this category. So suppose there is one thing called diagnostic lab turnaround time. So when a sample is being collected from one particular patient, now that sample has to reach to the lab, and the test needs to be done. Now the smaller this particular the minimum this particular time, the more correct the diagnostic result. And there are already automated things. So it is a sort of tubular channels in the hospital. So when you collect the blood, you just put it in a you just open a hole in the sort of a door in the window in your wall, and using suction technology, it will automatically take the particular vial into the diagnostic lab, which is located in the 10th floor of the building. So this is a very used example of process automation, and we can use similar automatic robotic based services for healthcare or administration. Claims administration. So claims and medical insurance is a big thing right now. In the US, in the Europe, it's already a big thing. And in India, it's already coming up. So claims records are again massive healthcare records. So extracting relevant information from claims history, and then calculating the premium amount, healthcare premium amount, and all those things is a big thing. And claims And claims record administration is a big invites a lot of talent, and they are already trying to automate the entire process to increase the claim settlement or claim premium calculation time. So suppose you come with a claim history of 100 pages. So instead of going through it manually, if there was a system which could automatically scan it, extract all the important relevant terms, and then calculate a score of your risk, and then calculate a premium amount, that would be increasing the uh, claim claim adjudication and all those things. Customer churn, chatbots, as we are going to more and more mobile based services, so chatbots and business insights, these are also some important questions in business person management. Lastly, we come to pharmaceuticals. So pharmaceuticals also includes vaccines as well as drugs in my case. And drug discovery, as you already know, drug target discovery, that involves finding out particular gene or genes which are important in the disease state compared to the normal state, then finding out drug molecules and whether the drug molecule and the drug target are properly aligned, or docking is using docking techniques. So those things are studied here. Planning logistics and improving clinical trials. So clinical trials is something, it's a big sort of a revenue burner in the pharmaceutical industry. So much of the investment goes into the designing clinical trials and implementing clinical trials. And this is something also, clinical trial data, ability to analyze clinical trial data is also something which needs a bit of AI and data science right now. So now the challenges. So now, as you know, the more the problems, the diverse the data field, the more the challenges. And the first challenge, which is a very big thing in data quality, is and data infrastructure. So data quality is something which is very critical in health informatics. So we lack quality data aggregation as an integral part of healthcare delivery. So suppose people capture healthcare data as a part of healthcare service. So they are rendering some service, and in that course, they capture healthcare data. So healthcare data capture is more of a secondary purpose. And that what makes the quality questionable and doubtful in some cases. So that's a big challenge, because models, any AI model, any ML model, you can't build a good AI or ML model with a bad data. So the assumption is you are having a very good quality data, and then only you can build a proper AI or ML model. And the next thing is the lack of fairness for healthcare datasets. So what is fairness? Fair principle is something which applies to the biological domain. So data should be findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. So and data should be so one hospital at maybe in India is capturing clinical data. One hospital in Singapore is capturing some clinical data. One in the London and one in the New Jersey. So now these four hospitals would be having different standards, different structures of the clinical data. But if you wish to merge these four data sets, then you have to reach to a standard procedure. And this is a big challenge. So people will be capturing data in different pattern and fashions. And you have to make those data, you have to curate the data, and you have to make it standardized and harmonized. And a lot of time goes into this particular data verification for healthcare data. There are solutions. So the first solution is building more clinical registries. So clinical registries are actually pre-planned data records. So it's not that you are providing healthcare and you are capturing data as a secondary thing. Not that you capture data. That's your primary goal. And in the course of data capture, you also provide healthcare. But it's a very costly thing to do, implement, and maintain. And the next thing is preparing a proper ontology for fair and datasets, so that what the hospital in Delhi, those patients suffering from type 2 diabetes with diabetic retinopathy, you can also get a similar set of patients with a similar set of diagnosis from other locations also. So given you are properly, you are doing a standardization of this disease column. So you can map multiple diseases, you can club diseases, and you can do a large scale combined analysis. The next challenge is actually compliance and governance, because data, healthcare data is very restricted and very sensitive. So, and there are very complex regulatory guidelines for healthcare data storage, collection, and utilization, like HIPAA, GDPR, and CPGR. So there are lots of techniques which people have suggested, but it's not a very straight-cut solution. So there's something called federated learning. So in federated learning, so generally when we build a model, we take data from multiple sources, we store them in a central repo, and we run the model there. We build the model there, we run the model there. But in case of federated learning, we don't do that. The data resides into the local server. The model is built in the local server, and the model gets deployed and implemented there also. There only. But the model parameters will be stored into the central server. So no data is stored centrally. All data resides locally in the particular hospital in their servers. Only the model parameters are stored centrally. And this is, so there is a sort of a feedback mechanism. So as more data increases, the model parameters change. They update the central repo model parameters, which in turn also updates the parameters of a different hospital. So this is how the thing works. This is called something called federated learning. But again, it's a very tricky thing to implement. There are lots of expertise is needed for that thing, but there is a feeling in the industry that things are going in that direction, because you can't aggregate and store diverse healthcare data into a central repo given the data sensitivity. Lastly, and which is where Pine Biotech and this program comes into place, is data science skills. So suppose you have data quality, you have data infrastructure, you have all these data collected and created. Now what you do? So there is a tremendous lack of data literacy among healthcare workers. So any physician, any nurse, anybody, they have a tremendous lack of data literacy. And even skilled data analysts who also understand the complexity of healthcare domain, that's also lacking. So those who come from healthcare domain have no clue about data science and health informatics. So that's where this sort of course is going to help. And believe me, again, given the huge going to be explode in the genre of data science and health informatics. This is some skill which is going to be required in this particular healthcare industry. And this is where the knowledge and skill of various data sources, various healthcare data sources and data types, and how to clean them, how to standardize them, how to curate them, how to conceive important models, and how to build those models, how to test those models, and how to deploy those models. This entire skill is going to be a very rare skill in the coming future. So next, I move to the challenges and opportunities. So challenges wise, I have already mentioned it in a iterative fashion. Again, I will just mention it. So one thing is problem in data acquisition. So you can't get data so easily because, and suppose for some cases where you have to do some real-time prediction. Suppose you have a person who is wearing a Fitbit, a wearable, from where you are capturing the blood pressure. Now the blood pressure is dropping down gradually, and and it's dropping down very steeply, and it tells you that the person is going to have a fall because it's going down consistently. Now from there you need to give a particular notification to that patient or to the relevant care providers that this patient is going to have a fall. So for that, you need some real-time data streaming, the data streaming and real-time data prediction, model prediction, and notification. So this entire thing, this involves lots of expertise. You need database administrations, you need model deployments, you need data scientists. There are lots of things for a very simple problem. But this is something which is a very challenging thing, capturing and storing and predicting from real-time or near real-time data, which is very, very important in healthcare informatics. Next, as I already told, harmonizing data. So you have to standardize disease, drug, symptom, procedures across different data sources using proper ontology mapping. So you need to know that how do I standardize disease? How do I do this for drug? From where do I find the information that which drug treats which disease? Which drug should not be given in which disease? So what are all possible relationships between drug and disease? So that is a very big area, that there is something called medical terminology, and there are multiple available ontologies. And so that's also which is a very important resource to be learned for health informatics. Next comes model building. Now, model building, I guess we will be talking more on model building. So it has two very vital steps. One is feature engineering, one is model building. So feature engineering means you process some biomedical data from different sources. It can be omics source, it can be EMRs, vital wearable parameters, images, scans and images, and you convert them to clinically meaningful features called feature engineering. So you just translate or transform the data into some structured features. So this feature engineering will depend on the data type. If you are using image data, then you will be extracting pixels and pixel features. If it's a colored image, you will extract RGB3 different channel features. It's a black and white image, you will extract only 0 to 1 to 255 black and white pixel feature. If it's clinical notes, you will be building word embeddings. If it's a tabular data, then it's already a tabular data. You need to normalize it. So this feature engineering is something very important in healthcare data. Next comes, so once you derive the features, you can use them into the models. Where you can make supervised models, unsupervised models, neural networks, graph networks. Another thing is, after you build the model for health informatics, you also need to provide something called interpretability. Now, healthcare is a such domain where you need to provide the interpretation, which is now being called as interpretable AI. So unless the care provider knows that this is the cause for which, this patient was having a consistent drop in the blood pressure for the last 2 minutes, and that's why the model has told me that he is going to have a fall in the next 5 minutes. So this interpretation has to be there in the context of healthcare informatics, or it won't be that much of deployable or translatable in the healthcare domain. So these two things are also big challenges in the healthcare informatics. Now, what are the industry roles? Now, we all of you know about the bioinformatician. So who work with omics data, transcriptomics, proteomics, and yes, and this particular expertise is needed in this field also, majorly in oncology, where the idea is to subtype and precise subtyping of a particular breast cancer or colorectal cancer or any liver cancer, and that will help you to cater more precise therapy, more precise drug regime for particular subtypes. So omics data is also needed in this particular industry, that expertise. Then something called clinical informatician. Now, the role of this clinical informatician is to work with all possible clinical data. It can be clinical notes where the person will be using NLP-based techniques. It can be image data where deep learning images and all those things would transfer learning would be used. Medical terminologist. I have already told about this, that because there are lots of disparate data sources and people are using different terms, so we need to do a proper mapping, and this is what is called medical terminology is the job profile for that. So we harmonize and we map it so that we can combine data from disparate sources and get a central source for generating insights. Biomedical data curation. So publicly available is lots of data. So publicly available data, proprietary biomedical data, you have to curate and you have to structure it. That's a big there's a big demand of this particular job role in the industry. Biomedical data scientist. So feature engineering and building AI models for clinical decision support is something which falls under the JD of this particular role, data scientist. And lastly, something called solutions architect, who actually connect all the technical details of a problem, a business problem in healthcare domain. So suppose we want to, a company wants to build a fall detection algorithm, and the architect will tell the company that you need these things in this place. You need to have a remote monitoring device. You need to connect it to a database, and the database will live stream the data. These will be the models which will be running in maybe every minute or every 2 minutes, and there will be a notification on how that has to be sent. The entire end-to-end thing is the what falls under the domain of the solutions architect. And there are many more industry roles in the context of, in the case of health informatics. So I guess I'll just end today's discussion here, and I guess I just took 4 minutes extra. And any questions, I'm open to the questions.